Good evening, everyone. My name is Safa Ahmed, and I am the Associate Media Director of the Indian American Muslim Council. Welcome to the third annual Human Rights and Religious Freedom, or HRRF, Journalism Awards. It is our great honor tonight to show our recognition and appreciation for the journalists who have looked power and its abuses in the face and still chosen with bravery and integrity to uplift the stories of the marginalized. But before we do, we want to first acknowledge the brave Palestinian journalists who are currently documenting the ongoing genocide in Gaza. We want to uplift the memory of the 111 journalists who were killed for documenting the truth and not allowing the world to forget Palestine. May their memory not be forgotten, and may their work not be in vain. We also want to acknowledge the courage of the Indian and Kashmiri journalists who also pay a price for their work and who have been imprisoned by the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They too should not be forgotten, and they too deserve to be fought for. In these difficult times, journalists are sacrificing their lives and their freedom to tell us the stories that matter. It's only right that we give them the recognition they deserve. With that, I would like to call Morley Music to the stage to open tonight's ceremony.
Thank you, Safa. My name is Morley Music, and I work for the Indian American Muslim Council, IAMC. And IAMC initiated the HRRF Journalism Awards in 2022 in order to honor courageous reporting that explores the questions of human rights and lived realities of religious minorities and marginalized communities in India. The contributions of today's award winners are crucial for understanding the on-the-ground challenges faced by Muslims, Christians, Dalits, Adivasis, and other persecuted groups in India. We extend our thanks to the more than 200 journalists who submitted their impactful work for this year's competition. Like last year, a diverse panel of journalists and scholars from both US and Indian media organizations collaborated to choose winners across print, video, and photojournalism categories. The task of selecting from so many outstanding entries proved to be just as challenging as before. And IAMC thanks this year's wide-ranging jury from India, the US, UK, and Europe. In a year marked by relentless challenges where the Indian media faces enormous threats, HRRF's 8-member international jury selected winners who boldly speak truth to power. The resilience of these journalists and their dedication to just reporting resonates in these difficult times. Their work also offers windows of hope, spotlighting commitment to ethical, objective journalism against a backdrop of constant government repression. For further context on India's current media situation, I'd like to welcome IAMC Executive Director Rashid Ahmed, who will now deliver a series of remarks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rashid Ahmed, and I have been with IAMC for more than 2 decades. It's a great honor to welcome all of you in India and the US to our 3rd annual Human Rights and Religious Freedom Awards ceremony. IAMC is proud to make this award part of our work. It's deeply important to give journalistic excellence its due. I am going to explain a bit more about India's increasingly imperiled media ecosystem in order to give you a sense of sheer courage of the video and investigative reporters we celebrate tonight. Their work takes on tremendous risks. From government censorship orchestrated by the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party to raids on independent media offices, corporate takeovers of independent outlets by Modi's crony capitalists, and the harassment, imprisonment, and assassination of journalists, independent Indian media have rarely faced greater danger. According to Reporters Without Borders, or RSF, India fell 25 places on the Press Freedom Index between 2015 and 2024. According to RSF, nearly half of the 28 reporters killed since Modi assumed power in India were killed for covering environmental stories. 7 journalists remained imprisoned in India, 5 of them being charged unfairly as violating the overbroad Anti-Terrorism Unlawful Activities Protection Act. In February, Kashmiri Muslim journalist Asif Sultan was rearrested just 5 hours after being released from prison, where he had spent over 2,000 days over baseless charges of terrorism. He was later released by a court on bail. On the other hand, Hindu nationalist press continued to inflame violence with Hindu extremist news editor Suresh Chawanke, known for promoting hatred of Muslims, recently calling out pick up swords instead of a pen. Hindus should keep weapons. The India-based Free Speech Collective published a report stating that there have been 134 instances of free speech violations since beginning of 2024. In the face of these mounting threats, the bravery of today's award winners merits special mention. Through their extraordinary dedication, they have illuminated the path to a more inclusive and harmonious world. These stories shed light on the issues that matter most to our shared humanity. Thank you for joining us to celebrate them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for those insightful remarks. Now, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Professor Suchitra Vijayan. Dr. Vijayan is an essayist, lawyer, and photographer who authored the critically acclaimed book, Midnight's Borders, A People's History of Modern India, and How Long Can the Moon Be Caged? Voices of Indian Political Prisoners. A professor at Columbia University and New York University, Dr. Vijayan is also the founder and executive director of the Pluralist Project, a New York-based hybrid research and journalism organization. With that, I am honored to welcome Dr. Vijayan to the stage.
Thank you for inviting me to speak. It's an absolute honor to be here at this event that celebrates fearless journalism and the documentation of various human rights violations. I want to begin today by quoting my dear friend and Kashmiri human rights defender, Khurram Parvez, who the Indian state has arbitrarily detained for over 1,000 days. In a conversation with David Bassamian over a decade ago, when asked why Khurram and JKCCS undertook the grueling work of relentlessly documenting and archiving the ongoing violence of his people or ongoing violence against his people, Khurram did not just speak about human rights violations. He talked about something more significant. He said, and I'm quoting Khurram now, "We believe that memory is the most important tool that oppressed people have. Oppressors want us to have amnesia, to forget everything. The only potent weapon we have as the weak and oppressed people is memory. Our memory will always help us sustain the struggle against injustice." For those of you who may not know or who are not aware of Khurram's work or the work that Parvez Imroz Saab or JKCCS does, their work remains a powerful record of what the Indian state has done in Kashmir. Their work sheds light on the atrocities committed, exposing the systemic violence and impunity that have plagued the region. Their work is a testimony to the resilience of those who refuse to let the truth be buried. Khurram's words are echoed by another journalist, Siddiq Kapin, who spent 851 days in prison, that's about 28 months, after being detained on his way to Hathras to report a brutal gang rape of a young Dalit girl on October 5th, 2020. For the crime of reporting, Kapin was charged with the intent to incite violence and was booked under terror and sedition charges. Not only was he stopped from doing his work, but the violence in Hathras was no longer the story. Instead, he, the reporter himself, became the news. In his first public appearance after his release, Kapin said, "Don't forget anything. One tool works best against fascism. That is memory. We must remember everything that has happened to us." When I spoke to Kapin a year after his release, Kapin still clung on to those words. For him, memory was the most powerful weapon. It was powerful because it reminded us of what we had lived through. But more importantly, he believed that if they took away our ability to remember, document, and articulate, they would have taken away everything. And then we would have lost everything. In the age where lies and disinformation wage a war for our attention, The work of journalists is keeping a record of these times. These records of repression are a powerful reminder that the struggle for freedom and dignity is universal. As we gather here today, I want to begin by acknowledging the ongoing violence and genocide in Gaza, where over 125 journalists and media workers have been targeted and killed in the last 9 months, making it the deadliest period on record for reporters. More journalists have been killed in Gaza in the last 9 months than all our current conflicts together, more than Second World War, which lasted for 6 years. Yet, journalists in Gaza continue to report. They have live-streamed a genocide for over 9 months. They continue to document the annihilation of their own people. They report stories of violence and the grotesque brutality, knowing very well that they could be next. Over these months, I have wondered, what more does it take? What more does it take for this carnage to end? How many more journalists must be murdered, massacred, and targeted for this to stop? Like you, I have no answers, just anger and anguish. Yet, journalists continue to report, not just in Gaza, but in Kashmir and in India, in other parts of the world, where the mere act of bearing witness has become criminalized. As has been mentioned before, the World Press Freedom Index by Reporters Without Borders has called India one of the most dangerous countries for journalists. India's media today operates on the shadow of an unofficial state emergency. We are no longer writing and reporting in a democracy. The Indian state has regularly used the colonial era laws like sedition and defamation to suppress the media, with anti-terrorism laws that are wielded against a journalist. Modi's government has introduced several laws that give it extraordinary powers to control the press, censor news, and silence critics. What we are witnessing is an absolute and authoritarian control of information and news, along with the capacity to disappear those who resist the state, many of whom are journalists. The Indian police and judiciary have not only failed to prosecute the crimes against journalists, but have also contributed to the prosecution through systematic violation of their rights. In Kashmir, the Indian state calls journalists white-collar terrorists. Over 200 journalists have some cases against them, some or the other case against them. The aim is not just to control what is said, written, and reported, but also to control the mind, bodies, history, and even memories. Given these dire circumstances, one would expect a complete capitulation. Yet, there are those who continue to write, report, and document. I'm in awe of the journalists who continue to work against all odds. But I want to remind you that courage alone is not enough. Courage cannot keep you warm. It cannot put food on the table. And it certainly isn't a currency when the mighty Indian state comes knocking, incarcerates you for a decade under UAPA, and then lets you rot in the prison. As we speak of the courage of these journalists, we must also support good journalism and acknowledge their work. Today, journalists lack infrastructure, support, and most critically, resources needed to continue their work. As we gather here today to celebrate the best of journalism, that which reports human rights violations, documents state violence that disproportionately targets minorities and the marginalized, we must find a way to support it. I say this as someone who runs a newsroom with remarkable people, editors, reporters, journalists, and researchers. I thank all of you for making today's awards possible. So today I'm asking you to go beyond just acknowledgement of the awards. We must collectively find and continue these awards and the support for journalism and journalists who on the ground continue to serve as our eyes and ears. I want to end with a few lines from a powerful poem called Everything Will Be Remembered by Amir Aziz. Kill us and we will become ghosts and write of your killings with all the evidence. You write injustice on the earth, we will write revolution in the sky. Everything will be remembered, everything recorded. Thank you, and in solidarity with everyone fighting for freedom and dignity. Inqilab Zindabad. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayan. That was very powerful. We will now announce the winners in all 5 award categories, including one special category for best reporting on human solidarity. Winners in each of these categories will receive a plaque along with a cash prize of 50,000 rupees. We will start with the best text reporting on human rights and religious freedom. This award recognizes the uniquely difficult work that goes into crafting long-form, intensely researched articles. And we will show a brief video explaining who the winner is. Congratulations to both Asta and Vijeta on jointly winning the award. The jury faced a tough challenge in selecting winners among so many excellent submissions. Asta's impactful story on how India's ruling party handed over 62% of new Sainik schools or army schools to Hindu nationalist organizations, BJP politicians, and allies gained significant traction, compelling the Ministry of Defense to issue a statement and igniting a widespread debate, including among the political parties. Her research prompted questions about the importance of maintaining objective and unbiased military education. Meanwhile, Vijeta's 9-month-long investigation tackled the crucial issue of how the Modi government silenced critics within the diaspora. Both stories have shed light on deeply significant issues, and we're proud to honor them today. Congratulations once again. Next up is our award for Best Photo Story on Human Rights and Religious Freedom. Photographs have a special place in the media world, gripping our emotions and attention, and they help summarize issues by rendering them vivid and immediate.
Congratulations to Umar Altaf Para. His photo story, focusing on the demolition of a centuries-old mosque in Delhi, highlights the insidious nature of repression and its impact on people. This story shines a spotlight on the gradual erosion of religious freedom through the lens of the mosque's demolition. The photographer's skill and the careful selection of images make him a clear winner in this category. A big round of applause for Umar. Now we announce our winner for Best Video Story on Human Rights and Religious Freedom. Video demands long-term commitments to a time and place, working with sources until they can open up in front of a camera, and explaining long histories over a short-term span. The award-winning documentary faces all of these challenges to create a powerful story.
हम दलित समाज के लोगों को मोटा गांव में बाल नहीं काटते, कोई मटके से उनके घरों का पानी नहीं पीना, खटिए पे नहीं बैठने देते, बाद में उनके खेत में जाना तो उनकी इजाज़त लेनी पड़ती है।
गवर्नमेंट के सामने भी लड़ना है और जो अपर कास्ट है उसके सामने भी लड़ना है, पुलिस के साथ भी लड़ना है और जो अत्याचारी है उसके सामने भी लड़ना है।
Violence, unrest and strife. Indian-administered Kashmir has a volatile history, but a new poison has taken over the region.
How is it connected to narco-terrorism? What does that mean?
Narco-terrorism means terrorism supported by narco channel, narco link.
Mental health is a big challenge in one of the most militarized zones in the world. Navigating a life under constant surveillance can be humiliating for many and lead to stress.
8 फरवरी में घटी हिंसा में सुहेल के चाचा और उनके भाई को गोली लगने से मौत हो गई। सुहेल का आरोप है कि उनके परिवार वालों पर गोली पुलिस ने चलाई। आरोप सिर्फ सुहेल का ही नहीं, हल्द्वानी के कई लोग पुलिस पर पक्षपात के और मुस्लिमों को जानबूझकर टारगेट करने का आरोप कर रहे हैं।
पापा को गोली लग गई तो उधर से उसने कॉल पर कहा कि इधर चाचा के भी गोली लग गई।
An ethnic conflict which has widened the chasm between Manipur's two ethnic communities, the Kukis and the Meiteis. Grief and loss don't differentiate between who is a Meitei and who is a Kuki.
Congratulations to Akanksha, Saxena, Irfan Mehraj, and Khalid Khan. It's important to acknowledge that one of the co-winners, journalist Irfan Mehraj, was arrested by Indian authorities in March 2023 under the draconian anti-terror law, the UAPA, and continues to be jailed in Tihar. Despite this, Irfan contributed significantly to the reporting before his arrest, and the documentary was released earlier this year. This story has won in this category not only because of the challenging access the team managed to secure, but also for its exploration of how an entire generation of young Kashmiris struggles with drug addiction, a crisis partly fueled by years of state repression. Well done to the entire team for shining a light on such a critical issue. I request now that everyone give a standing ovation to the jailed journalist, Irfan Mehraj. Now we announce the HRRF Young Journalist of the Year Award, which recognizes the efforts of journalists under 30 who show courage and determination beyond their years. Congratulations, Fatima Khan. Her powerful documentaries give voice to those silenced by far-right violence, and her consistent and impactful reporting on human rights and religious freedom issues over the past year makes her a clear winner in this category. Let's give her a well-deserved round of applause for her extraordinary contributions to journalism. This year, we've introduced a special category to honor the best story on human solidarity. This category was introduced to celebrate the efforts of reporters whose work shows us how people of different faiths can live side by side in peace and mutual understanding, and how we can all learn from the tolerance that guided India's founding fathers.
Congratulations, Shweta Desai. Her powerful story in the Christian Science Monitor comes at a critical time amidst rising religious extremism and hypernationalism under Prime Minister Modi's government. In an era where memories of Hindu-Muslim solidarity seem all but forgotten, the friendship between Gyan Das and Baba the Tailor stands as a poignant reminder of India's rich legacy of multiculturalism and tolerance. Congratulations, Shweta, on this much-deserved recognition. So thank you so much for joining us. As we draw the ceremony to a close, we want to extend our deepest gratitude again to all those who made the third annual HRRF Journalism Awards possible, from our fantastic keynote speaker, Dr. Suchitra Vijayan, to the tireless efforts of the jury, and of course, the courageous journalists who were honored tonight. The stories we've heard today are not just accounts of injustice or repression. They are reminders of the staying power of journalism to expose the truth, even when faced with adversity. As we leave tonight, let us carry forward the commitment to defend press freedom and continue the fight for justice and democracy. Let us remember the sacrifices of journalists, both here and around the world, those who face imprisonment, threats, and even death for their dedication to truth. May their courage inspire us to uphold human dignity, to never forget the power of a free press in shaping a more just, equitable society. We ask you to consider donating to IAMC so that we can continue to uplift and honor journalists who risk everything to report stories that matter. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to continuing this vital work together.